Howdy, this is the Views from the Shop podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller, and today it is Saturday, January 31st, 2026, and I wish you a very, very, very happy Hug an Economist Day. On today's show, I'm only about an hour and a half out from Ohio State losing to Wisconsin, but the game was what it was. If you watched with about 10 minutes left to go in the first half to any point throughout the game, you knew what happened. Ohio State lost this game. There was absolutely no surge from the Buckeyes in this one. Once they lost their lead, it was over. So on today's show, I will break down the game in its entirety, give you my biggest takeaways, gut reaction, biggest stats that lead to the outcome from this one in Madison. Really nothing happened from the point of about 11 minutes left to go in the first half to the clock hitting all zeros, and the second half is over. The game goes final. This was a game where Ohio State looked really good for the first 9 minutes, and for the final 31, the Buckeyes just not good enough in this one. So we will break it all down here on today's show. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and please subscribe if you're new. I would love to get to 300 subscribers here before we get into March. That is not that hard of a goal, but I guess it's the goal that I'm setting at this point. So we got about a month to just get a couple dozen more subscribers here on YouTube. So please like the video and subscribe so that we can get there. If you're listening on podcast, please give a 5-star review and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Follow on all the socials. You get that. And of course, you know the Substack. I know you get tired of me plugging it, but I got to do it. There's new listeners, new viewers every single show. Views from the Shots podcast.substack.com. Post content there pretty much on a daily basis, multiple times a day. Consider it push notifications to your phone for Ohio State basketball exclusively. That is what the Substack is there for. The insider chat as well, available to you. Got people asking me after the game what my thoughts are on Jake Diebler's job security at this point. I feel pretty confident in what happens there. I don't know. Maybe you should check it out as well. So it's Wisconsin 92. It's Ohio State 82. How on earth did we get here? Again, it wasn't really that hard of a game to diagnose. It's not that hard of a game to analyze. Ohio State was good for the first half of the first half. And then from there, Wisconsin took over. And really the most disappointing part of this game, I think, on Ohio State's side is there was never another run. There was never a push from Ohio State. There was never a time in the game after Ohio State lost its lead where you thought, you know what, Ohio State might be back in it. I mean, they go down by 6 at halftime after the Amari Bynum layup. And even at that point, I tweeted it out. I said, Ohio State down by 6. It felt like they were down by 16 at that point. Ohio State they got outplayed. They got outclassed. And this was a game where they just got beat. Sometimes you lose. Sometimes you get beat. This is a game where Ohio State just got beat by Wisconsin in this one. I talked about the keys to the game, what Ohio State needed to do, and I talked about how there was a path for Ohio State to win this game, but the Buckeyes, they come up short in this one. So we'll break it down here. Let's get into some key stats in this one. The first thing I'll talk about is what I said was the biggest key to the game for Ohio State, and that was stopping Wisconsin from behind the three-point line. I said, your key to the game, your moneymaker. I posted this on Twitter today before the game as well, and said, look, if Ohio State can stop threes from Wisconsin, they're going to have a really good shot to win this game. Wisconsin came into this one, I think, with the 8th highest three-point attempt rate in all of college basketball. They love to fire away from deep. And in this game, Wisconsin makes a respectable for Ohio State's defense, respectable 9 3-pointers. That's nothing crazy. Ohio State does that all the time. It is what it is. It's the 8th time this season Wisconsin has made 9 or less three-pointers in a game, and yet just their 3rd win doing that. In the second half, Wisconsin was just 2 of 11. Obviously, Austin Rapp went crazy. He was 5 of 7 in this game. It's his most productive shooting output of the year from deep for him in a Wisconsin uniform. and he came into this game shooting 28%. It was bound to happen. We all know how this goes, right? Against Ohio State, it's a common phenomenon where you see a team shoot really poorly the night before they play Ohio State. They come in against Ohio State, they go off. A player hasn't really done much in a certain area against Ohio State, they go off. Now, that's obviously more of a narrative. I don't know how true it really is on a game-to-game basis, but in this one, Austin Rapp was the suspect and convicted, guilty of making three-pointers when he didn't really do that all that much earlier in the season. It's a long charge, but he's still guilty. 35% is what Wisconsin shot in this game. That was good enough. Even with the lack of volume, the shooting percentage alone was good enough. And every loss so far this year for Wisconsin, they've shot 25% or worse, other than one loss against, I don't remember who at this point. I think TCU, could be wrong. Maybe Villanova, something like that. But regardless, Wisconsin was still efficient enough to win this game. They took 26 three-pointers. That's just a couple less than their season average at this point. So the volume wasn't there, but the efficiency was, and it all came in the first half. This was the key to the game for Ohio State. They had to stop Wisconsin from making three-pointers. The magic number was 10 or less, really, in this one. But unfortunately, Ohio State does it, and it's not been a way Wisconsin's been able to really consistently win so far this year. You just look at the numbers, they haven't. And yet, in this one, Ohio State still comes up short. Now, how did Ohio State come up short? Well, Wisconsin, even with the lack of three-point shooting, they shot 52% from the field in this game. It was their best shooting performance since a December 22nd game against Central Michigan. The Chippewas, oh, by the way, at this point, are 6-15 playing in the MAC this year. 6-15. It is the best Wisconsin has shot in a game since they played a mid-major bad team in Central Michigan. All it took was playing Ohio State's defense. Now, I will say, over the past couple games, Ohio State's defense has been encouraging. So I'm not here to completely trash Ohio State's defensive performance. I'm not going to say that. But in this game, they just were not good enough. The Badgers, again, they cooled off in the second half from the field, also from the three-point line, but they still shot 44% from the field in this one. The stops weren't there for Ohio State. I mentioned this as well on Twitter during the game. Ohio State could not string together stops with scores. That was probably over anything in this game. That was the biggest reason why Ohio State was not able to win this game. Ohio State, on the flip side, they only shoot 41% from the field in this game. Ohio State only had 30 paint points. That's not enough given how Ohio State typically scores. And by the way, Wisconsin, even without the three-point production, they had 38 points. In the paint? No. 38 points off of layups alone. That's it. They didn't make a single dunk, but they had 38 points off of layups. That is not good enough. And enter Christoph Tilley. Now, I will say, my normal philosophy on this show, on Twitter especially, I could get a lot more likes. I get a lot more follows if I just trash Jake Diebler, if I just trash the team, if I trash players constantly, because that's a popular and easy thing to do at this point. It gets the likes, it gets the views, whatever. That's not what I'm here for, so I don't do that. I also know that I have some relationships that have been established that I'd like to nurture and that I'd like to keep. And if I just roast everyone all the time, then, well, those relationships, they go bye-bye. And I don't want that to happen because it means the quality of the show goes down. It means the quality for you goes down. So you get that, right? So I don't come on the show hardly ever and just trash anyone. I will say at this point, Christoph Tilley had probably his worst game as an Ohio State Buckeye and one of the worst individual performances I've seen from an Ohio State starter potentially since I've done this show. I mean, it was that bad. He goes 0 of 8 from the field in this game. He has 3 rebounds, only 1 defensive rebound as a 7-footer. He had 1 assist and 1 turnover. He started the game missing layups. He pulled down a couple offensive rebounds early, but missed all of his layups. Absolutely no touch. It's something I've said all season at this point. Christoph Tilley has got to improve his touch around the rim. He did not have it at all in this one. He starts the game missing layups. He finishes the game missing layups, and then, I mean, he jogs back after that missed alley-oop, I think, from Bruce Thornton, where Ohio State had a chance to get a bucket on a run out. They had the opportunity. Tilley misses it, jogs back, playing with about as much inspiration as your coworker who just put in his 2 weeks notice. I just it didn't he didn't even care that he missed a shot. I mean, you look at his face as he's running back. It's just it is as stone cold. I don't care, no emotion whatsoever, as if he's completely checked out of the game. It was a horrible performance from Christoph Tilly. Offensively, defensively, I think that was a large part why Wisconsin was able to score at the rim as much as they did in this game. Ivan Degovin, he starts in the second half in place of Tilly, and you really got nothing out of him. Here's the thing with Tilly at this point. If he's playing that poorly just because he's off, that's one thing. But if he's playing that poorly due to injury, why on earth did he get the minutes that he got in this game? I mean, I'm fine. Like, Ohio State just beat Penn State without Christoph Tilly. Is Penn State Wisconsin? No, absolutely not. But if Christoph Tilly is good enough to start in this game, and he's good enough to get 19 minutes, although I guess we'll check his first half minutes. That's really more important because that's when he really played. He had 12 first half minutes. So let's say he paces for 24 minutes. He goes under 20, whatever. If he's not well enough to play in this game, if he's not all the way back at this point, why is he getting the minutes that he did? Because Ohio State went out against Penn State, and they played Bruce Thornton, John Mobley Jr., Tayson Chapman, Devin Royal, and Amari Bynum on the floor all at the same time. You saw Ohio State go out there with 3 guards, move Devin Royal to the 4, move Amari Bynum to the 5. Now, is that what you want to do at all times? No. Wisconsin's got a 7-footer out there, Nolan Winter. He's really good. So rotationally, I get the constraints that you have, but if he's not good enough to go, again, why is he getting the minutes that he got in this game? And even if it's some combination of I'm not fully healthy and I'm just not feeling right in this game, limit the minutes more than you did. That's my opinion. Maybe I'm completely wrong on that, but he was awful. He was a liability in this game. It was really, really disappointing to see. And quite frankly, why would he play against Maryland? Here, my opinion on this, I know that, Jake Diebler and this coaching staff will have a different opinion. They want to go out there and win every single game that they can. At this point, obviously, you're in crunch time if you're Ohio State. Every single game matters. But you're going to go play Maryland now on Thursday. Buckeyes get a nice little stretch here to recover a little bit. But if Tilly's not ready to go, he shouldn't play against Maryland. There's no reason why he should get any minutes against Maryland after getting no minutes against Penn State. Those two teams are very similar in their caliber of play right now. As you look at Maryland, by the way, they are sitting at a whopping 1-8 in Big Ten play. Penn State 0-9 now after losing to Ohio State. So if you can't beat Maryland without Christoph Tilly, what are we doing here? We're not an NCAA tournament team. Can we say that we're an NCAA tournament team? I know I'm not on the team when I say I don't know why. I probably shouldn't say we. I don't want to come on here and act like I'm the fan whenever I'm on this show and all that. But can I say Ohio State's an NCAA tournament team if they can't beat Maryland without Christoph Tilly? No. So if that's the case, they're not going to the NCAA tournament anyway. So just sit Tilly, let him rest, let him recover, because then Ohio State kind of has a bit of a big game after that when they play Michigan at home and they got a chance for a quad 1A win and their signature win, and that would be huge for them. I do not see any reason why Christoph Tilly should play against Maryland if he cannot go. If he's not fully 100%, let him rest until the Michigan game, because that's when they're really, really going to need him. So Tilly was bad in this one. He was unfortunately a part of this. I have an interesting message here that I'd like to see. Just give me 1 second if you don't mind. Yeah. Okay. Just exchanging some texts with some people after a basketball game. That's all. So Wisconsin's backcourt, and this isn't something I really got into on the preview show, and I probably should have. This was a battle of two really, really good backcourts with Blackwell, with Boyd at Wisconsin, and obviously Thornton and Mobley Jr. at Ohio State. Blackwell, 22 points. Boyd, 21 points in this one. I tell you what, Nick Boyd, he especially took it to Tayson Chapman every single time he had the opportunity. We'll talk about Tayson Chapman later on in the show. Both of these players scoring virtually inside the three-point line on every single opportunity. That's a big-time change for John Blackwell, by the way. But Blackwell scores 22. Nick Boyd scores 21 on Ohio State's side. John Mobley Jr. I haven't wanted to say it, and now it's kind of dumb for me to say it after the fact, but I've been pretty skeptical that John Mobley Jr. has truly, fully turned the corner for Ohio State, in that he's going to put up 15 plus points in every game, and he's going to make several three-pointers and just continue to be the John Mobley Jr. that we've seen in the 4 previous games. But he certainly was not at the level that Ohio State needed him to be in this one. 9 points, 4 of 12 from the field, only 1 of 8 from the three-point line. The fouls hurt. Again, I think John Mobley Jr. is a player who absolutely needs to make shots early in order to get into the rhythm of things. Bruce Thornton isn't necessarily that way. I don't think Amari Bynum is necessarily that way. Devin Royal certainly is not that way. But I think John Mobley is. I think there's something mentally for him that when he gets a shot up and it goes in early, he just locks in a little bit more. And I think that's why a lot of times you see Ohio State design that opening set for John Mobley to make a shot. But the 3 fouls, obviously that didn't help him get into a rhythm either. You look at Bruce Thornton, he scores 17 points. That's fine, but he also had some pretty poor plays as well. You had the turnover that immediately leads to a foul on Bruce Thornton there as well. So John Mobley Jr. and Bruce Thornton were not good enough. Again, I tweeted this. Bruce Thornton at some point, he's just going to have to step up and take over a game for Ohio State. The lack of aggression that we see game in and game out from a player who has all-American potential. Everyone outside of Columbus doesn't understand that, I think, for the most part. Maybe some fans within the Big Ten would say, yeah, I think Bruce Thornton, if he were on Purdue, he could be an All-American. If you're on Michigan, he could be an All-American. Sure. Some Big Ten fans may say that, but all in all, the frustration that I have, and I think some fans have for Bruce Thornton just not stepping up and taking over and allowing the game to come to him. At some point, as the senior 4-time captain, they said that 97 different times during the broadcast today. We get it. He's a 4-time captain. Everyone, at least, I guess, in Columbus knows that. Maybe fans outside of that don't know that. But as a 4-year starter, as a 4-year captain at the same program, I think Bruce Thornton at some point just needs to say, you know what, guys, screw it. I'm going to go crazy. And I might go 3-17, but hey, I'm going to go down swinging. I think that's what we need more of from Bruce Thornton at this point, and I'm not sure that you're ever going to get that from him. And I think that's been a frustration from some people, even from last year into this year. And that's all I'll say about that. We can talk about Tayson Chapman at this point. So Tayson Chapman, he sets his career high in scoring after setting his career high in scoring against Penn State the game before. So now 2 games in a row for Tayson Chapman where he gets real minutes, and 2 games in a row he sets his career high. Now, I've told you all along my viewpoint, look, he's not been good enough in practice. He's not gotten the opportunities, enough opportunities in games where he's cashed in to the point where he deserves the playing time. So it is what it is, folks. Just ride with Gabe Cupps. Well, as it turns out, I and maybe the coaching staff might have been wrong on this one, and all the fans, maybe they were right. I'm just saying what I see. And I'm saying, look, Tayson Chapman, he's got the potential, and I think he'd be really good for Ohio State, but you look at the inconsistency in the minutes he gets when he does play this year, it hasn't been good enough. And then you can very quickly fire back and say, well, the inconsistency comes from the lack of minutes. He's not getting consistent minutes. What do you expect? And I'd say, okay, I get that. But Tayson Chapman, 14 points off the bench in this one, 11 points against Penn State. He fouls out in 17 minutes. So there's some good and there's some bad with Tayson Chapman, which is the case with any player. Anytime he was in, like I said, Wisconsin made it a point to really go after him. Still, 5 of 6 shooting on the offensive end. I think he made 4 3-pointers in this game as well. Let me confirm. Yeah, he's 4 of 4 from the 3-point line. My goodness, that's really good off the bench. I think it's clear at this point that Tayson Chapman is the solution over Gabe Cupps, even with the defensive lapses that you get from Tayson Chapman. I mean, he got lost. He got dog-walked in the first half defensively, and then he followed up with a 3 in transition that was beautiful. But you still got dog-walked defensively. Now, luckily, Ohio State's help defense, they got to stop there, and Ohio State was able to go +3 on that sequence. But regardless, there's defensive struggles with Tayson Chapman. Now, you may say, and I'm willing to hear this argument. I'm willing to hear it. Well, what do you expect from Tayson Chapman? He he's not going to play well defensively because he hasn't gotten consistent minutes all season long. And I would say I get that, but there are some things where you've got to click mentally at least, where sometimes I don't think you see that from Tayson Chapman. But I think the offense at this point you get from him compared to the offense of Gabe Cupps, compared to the defense of Tayson Chapman, compared to the defense of Gabe Cupps, Tayson Chapman needs to be getting Gabe Cupps minutes. And by the way, that's what happened. Gabe Cupps, he played 4 minutes in this game. That's Tayson Chapman's normal minutes pre-Penn State. Tayson Chapman plays 17 minutes. That's Gabe Cupps' normal minutes pre-Penn State. So it looks like these two players have pretty much switched roles at this point. And I think that's probably the right thing for Ohio State. Takeaways in this one. I got a couple. I guess the first, we're always talking about this 2-3 zone from Ohio State. So here's the thing. I guess my opinion on this 2-3 zone is that, number one, none of us know the points per possession when it comes to the 2-3 zone compared to playing man for Ohio State. You know who does? Ohio State internally. They know that number. And I would assume that because they keep playing the 2-3 zone, it's either not that different, or maybe when they play 2-3 zone, it's better than it is when they go man. So that's why they keep playing 2-3. But we also have to understand this is not your normal 2-3 zone that you faced in high school or junior high, which was we swing the ball, we rotate the ball, we move up to the elbow and pass it out of the corner. We get an open look from 3. 2-3 zone a lot of times is going to give up threes, right? That's not the 2-3 zone that Ohio State plays because they extend it. They are looking to deny those passes from the wings to the top of the key and apply pressure on the ball to really hurt the opposing team's ability to get 3-pointers up. So I think a lot of people went into this game saying, well, Wisconsin, all they want to do is shoot threes. Why would Ohio State play a 2-3 zone? They're not playing that normal 2-3 zone again you saw in high school. It's an extended 2-3 zone. It's different. So that said, still in the first half against the zone, Wisconsin, they got their open looks. They also got their open looks against man. They also got their open looks from offensive rebounds. So it happened any way that you want to slice it. It's just a matter of sometimes happening against 2-3 zone. I think we've got some confirmation bias from fans when Ohio State does go zone. In the second half, though, Ohio State settled in a little bit defensively. I think the stats prove that out as well. One thing I saw that may be new, maybe I've just missed it, Ohio State goes 2-3, and then if they get the ball into the paint, Wisconsin got the ball into the paint, especially in the first half, they would just go man in the middle of the possession, which I think that's creative. I think it's smart. I love that Ohio State does that, and they keep Wisconsin on their toes. Again, we've had many coaches say at this point that Ohio State's defense is really giving off opposing offenses fits. Coaches have said that. So I like that wrinkle thrown in from Jake Diebler, Jamal Walker, the coaching staff there. One thing is certain, though, Ohio State's not going to go away from the 2-3 zone. Again, it's not a traditional 2-3. It's extended. If you're beat, it means a lot of triples, or it means giving up shots on the backside in the short corner, layups, things like that. Whereas, again, against a normal 2-3 zone that you don't extend, you're going to give up some normal 3-pointers. That's not necessarily where Ohio State has given up a lot of open looks this year. And yes, sometimes they've lost guys completely. That's what happens when you play zone. You got to rotate. You got to be faster. You got to be quicker to trigger and things like that. But Ohio State's not going to go away from the 2-3 zone. I don't really think it was the culprit in this one. Here's what was the culprit in this game. This is it. There was no surge whatsoever from Ohio State after they got their 10-point lead. So the Buckeyes actually led by 11. They led by 10 halfway through the first half. Ohio State's best run after that point, where Wisconsin goes on its run, Ohio State's best run once they lost the lead was 4-0 in the first half. In the second half, Ohio State's best run was 4-0. It happened with about 2 minutes left in the game when it was all but decided at that point. Wisconsin, on the other end, what did they do? They surged. They surged multiple times against Ohio State in this one. Wisconsin scored on 8 straight shots at one point in this game. They scored on 4 straight shots, 2 different occasions in this game against Ohio State's defense. The Buckeyes' best string of shots made, you ask? 3 straight. It happened from the 5.5 to 3-ish minute mark in the first half when you still had a chance, but that was it. That was their best string of shot making. Ohio State's offense was not good enough, and their defense was not good enough. There was no complimentary basketball played during this game. So even when Ohio State would make a shot, they couldn't get a stop. And if they did get a stop, they couldn't make a shot. And they couldn't string multiple shots being made in this one. And it was just so deflating to watch Ohio State in this game be close, but not really close the entire way. Because once Ohio State lost its lead, it was gone forever. And that is an uninspiring outcome. It's a somewhat pathetic outcome to see that little of not necessarily effort, but that little of momentum shown at any time from Ohio State. No one could get it done for the Buckeyes in this one. And that lack of a surge, the lack of being able to put together a run, the lack of being able to put 5 guys on the floor at the same time who could play well offensively and defensively to get you back in the game, that's what cost you. And Wisconsin scored nearly 100 points in this game thanks to it. Here's the last thing I'll say. And I think we all need to take a deep breath because obviously there's frustration whenever Ohio State loses a game. And this game was more frustrating than a lot of games because you felt like you had a good shot to win. You felt like you matched up not the worst against a team like Wisconsin. And it was only a 4.5 point spread. And again, this was a big one for Ohio State because of the away games that Ohio State has that actually helps their resume. This was the one Ohio State needed to get. I don't know that you're going to go travel to Iowa and win that game. So the other away games that you've got, I kind of feel like losses at this point. This was the one you really, really needed to get. However, I will remind you, Wisconsin entered this game favored by 4.5 points. Ohio State was not supposed to technically win this game. Now, people come back at me and say, who gives a crap? And I say, apparently not you. And that's fine. All right? Relax, man. Relax. But Wisconsin was favored by Vegas to win this game. Winning on the road in the Big Ten is a mammoth task. It's something that no teams really do successfully. Ohio State is 3-5 since 2021 against Wisconsin. They've now lost all 4 of their last 4 games played in Madison. So it's not a game Ohio State was necessarily supposed to win. And just because you leave the game with a loss feeling super discouraged, it's what was supposed to happen. It's probably what Ken Palm said was supposed to happen. It's probably what Bart Torek said was supposed to happen. Any other predictive sites like that probably all said Ohio State was supposed to lose that game. Does it make it feel any better? No, obviously not. But here's the thing. Ohio State's going to have to return the favor when the Badgers come to Columbus on February 17th. That is true. I'm willing to set aside this game and say, you know what, Ohio State shouldn't have won. Technically, I guess. But when they come to Columbus, Ohio State needs to beat Wisconsin. They need to return the favor. That's a win that the Buckeyes really are going to have at this point because you look at the resume, and if you look at Michigan at home, and you look at Purdue at home, and you assume those are probably losses, you assume Iowa's a loss, you're running out of games that you can win that really, really matter on your resume because I can tell you right now, Maryland is not going to matter. Beating Penn State again, it's not going to matter. So you're going to have to pick up some wins against high-quality competition. So I'm willing to shove aside this loss now, so long as Ohio State gets the job done when they play Wisconsin on February 17th. And maybe that's me being glass half full. Maybe that's me being too optimistic. Maybe that's me excusing Ohio State for a bad performance. And I'm willing to hear you out on that. That's totally fine. But again, Ohio State wasn't supposed to win this game, technically. That doesn't excuse them of the loss, but it's not like the Buckeyes were favored by 6.5 on the road against Wisconsin. Ohio State does still have a legitimate shot to make the NCAA tournament at this point. That loss to Wisconsin does not change that being true in the slightest. So the Buckeyes get a little bit of a rest here before they play at Maryland on Thursday. Is that game at Maryland, by the way? I lied to you about where the game was for Ohio State on this one against Wisconsin. So rather than trusting our friends at College Basketball Analytics, let's just check the Ohio State basketball schedule. Some would say it makes me a casual that I don't know where this game is going to be played against Maryland. This will be at Maryland. Can confirm. So the Buckeyes are at Maryland on Thursday. Then they get Michigan at home on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. CBS loves its Buckeyes playing on Sundays. Once we make it to the Super Bowl Sunday, throughout, they want Ohio State playing on Sunday. So the Buckeyes will get Michigan, then a home game against USC. You should really get that one. Neutral site against Virginia before they play Wisconsin at home again. So another stretch here for Ohio State where I will say things could get off the rails. Things could get off the rails pretty quickly here because right now you sit at, what is Ohio State? 14-7 at this point. You're 14-7. Let's say that you beat Maryland as you should. 15-7. You lose to Michigan, probably. 15-8. You beat USC. 16-8. Let's say you lose to Virginia. Now you're at 16-9. You beat Wisconsin. 17-9. Lose at Michigan State. Lose at Iowa. 17-11. Lose against Purdue at home. 17-12. Beat Penn State. You're at 18-12, and with Indiana, finish that game with a win, 19-12. I think you're in the NCAA tournament. I really do. So again, I know that there's frustration about this loss. I still think there's a realistic shot here for Ohio State to still make the NCAA tournament, regardless. But again, things can get off the rails. If you somehow lose to Maryland, if you lose to USC, if you lose to Wisconsin, you lose at Michigan State and at Iowa, and you lose to Purdue, and you lose at home against Indiana, and you're flirting with finishing 16-15 or 17-14, things get a little scary. So we'll see. We're getting way ahead of ourselves here, but Ohio State still has a chance to make the NCAA tournament. We will be back most likely Tuesday or Wednesday coming up this week to preview Ohio State taking on Maryland. Might have a bonus episode for you. We'll see what happens, but appreciate you being here today. A bunch. Buckeyes don't get the job done, but we continue covering them no matter what happens. Thanks so much for listening to today's show. Until next time, I shut up before you shut me off. Go